4. The wife of the man from the company of the prophet cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he rebelled to the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a little oil." Elsa said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your son. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it on one side." She left him and afterward shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars of her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped pouring. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." One day, Elisa went to Shimon, and a well-to-do woman was there, who urged him to stay for a meal, so whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, "I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put it in the bed and the table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day, when Elisa came, he went to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunamite." So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisa said to him, "Tell her you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my own people. What can I be done for her?" Elisa asked. Gehazi said, "Well, she has no sons and her husband is old." Then Elisa said, "Call her." So he called her, and she stopped in the doorway. About this time next year, Elisa said, "You will hold the son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Don't mislead your servant, O man of God." But the woman became pregnant, and the next year, about that same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisa had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. My head," he said to his father. His father told the servant, "Carry him to his mother." After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to the mother, the boy sat on the lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God. Then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return." "Why go to him today?" he asked. "Is not the new moon or the Sabbath?" "It's all right," she said. She saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Lead on, don't slow down for me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there's the cemetery. Run to meet her and ask her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?'" "Everything is all right," she said. When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God said, "Leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why." "Did I ask you for a son, my lord?" she said. "Didn't I tell you? Don't raise my hopes." Elisa said to Gehazi, "Tuck your cloaks into the belt, take my staff in your hands, and run. If you meet anyone, do not greet him, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face." But the child's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, and there was no sound of response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisa and told him, "The boy has not awakened." When Elisa reached the house, there was a boy lying dead in his couch. He went in, shut the door on the 2 of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got up on the bed and lay upon the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands, as he stretched himself out upon him. The boy's body grew warm. Elisa turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got to the bed and stretched out upon him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisa summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunamite," and he did. When she came, he said, "Take your son." And she came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. Elisha returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in this region. While the company of the prophets were meeting with him, he said to his servant, "Put on the larger pot and cook some stew for these men." One of them went out into the fields to gather herbs and found a wild vine. He gathered some of his grounds and gourds and filled the blood of his cloaks. When he returned, he caught them up into the pot of stew, though no one knew what they were. The stew was poured out for the men, but as they began to eat it, they cried out, "O man of God, there is death in the pot," and they could not eat it. Elisha said, "Get some flour." He put it into the pot and said, "Serve it to the people to eat." And there was nothing harmful in the pot. A man came from Bethshean, bringing the man of God 20 loaves of barley bread baked from the first ripe of grain, along with some heads of new grain. "Giving it to the people to eat," Elisha said. "How can I set this before 100 men?" The servant asked. But Elisha answered, "Give it to the people to eat, for this is what the Lord says. They will eat and have some left over." And then he set it before them, and they ate and had some left over, according to the word of the Lord. 5. Now Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had loose praise. And now bands from Aram had gone out and taken captive young girls from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him to his leprosy." Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. "By all means, go," the king of Aram replied. "I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter that he took to the king of Israel read, "With this letter I am sending my servant Naaman to you, so that you may cure him of his leprosy." As soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robe and said, "Oh my God, can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he's trying to pick up a quarrel with me." When Elisha the man of God heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message: "Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman went him his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, "Go, wash yourself 7 times in Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be clean." But Naaman went away angry and said, "I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot to cure me in my leprosy. Are not heaven and perfect, the river of Damascus, better than any of the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wish in them and be cleansed?" So he turned and went up in the range. Naaman's servant went to him and said, "My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more than when he tells you, 'Wash and be cleansed'?" So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like the young boy. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, "Now I know that there is no God in all the world except Israel. Please accept now a gift from your servant." The prophet answered, "As surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept a thing." And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. "If you will not," said Naaman, "please let me, your servant, be given as much earth as a pair of mules can carry. For your servant will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other gods of the Lord. But may the Lord forgive your servant for this and one thing. When my master enters the temple of Rimmon to bow down, and he is leaning on his arm, and I bow there also, when I bow down in the temple of Rimmon, may the Lord forgive your servant for this." "Go in peace," Elisha said. After Naaman had traveled from distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said to himself, "My master was too easy on Naaman, the Arameans, by not accepting from him what he brought. As surely as the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him." So Gehazi hurried after Naaman. When Naaman saw his son running toward him, he got down from the chariot to meet him. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "Everything is all right," Gehazi answered. "My master sent me to say, 2 young men from the company of the prophet have just come to me from hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 sets of clothing." "By all means, take 2 talents," said Naaman. He urged Gehazi to ask them, and then tied up the 2 talents of silver to 2 bags and 2 sets of clothing. He gave them to 2 of his servants, and then carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came to the hill, he took the things from the servant and put them away in the house. He sent the men away and then left, and then he went into the stood before his master Elisha. "Where have you been?" Gehazi answered. "Your servant didn't go anywhere," Gehazi answered. But Elisha said to him, "Was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to take money or to accept clothes, olive groves, vineyards, flock, herds, or manservants or maidservants? Naaman's leprosy will cling to you and your descendants forever." Then Gehazi went from Elisha's presence, and he was leprosy as white as snow. 6. The company of the prophet said to Elisha, "Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to Jordan, where each of us can get a pole, and let us build a place there for us to live." And he said, "Go." Then one of them said, "Won't you please come with your servant?" "I will," Elisha replied, and he went with them. Then they went to the Jordan and began to cut down trees. As one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe fell into the water. "Oh, my Lord," he cried out, "it was borrowed." The man of God asked, "Where did it fall?" When he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it there, and made the iron black. "Lift it out," he said. Then the man reached out his hand and took it. Now the king of Aram was at war with Israel. After conferring with his officers, he said, "I will set up my camp in such and such a place." The man of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Beware trespassing that place, because the Arameans are going down there." So the king of Israel checked on the place indicated by the man of God. Time and again, Elisha warned the king, so that he was on his guard in such places. This enraged the king of Aram. He summoned his officers and demanded of them, "Will you not tell me which of us is on the side of the king of Israel?" "None of us, my lord the king," said one of his officers. But Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very word you speak in your bedroom. "Go find out where he is," the king ordered, "so I can send me and capture him." The report came back, "He is in Dothan." Then he sent horses and chariots and strong forces there. Then they went by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had summoned the city. "Oh, my lord, what shall I do?" The servant asked. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elisha prayed, "O Lord, open his eyes so he may see." Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots and fires all around Elisha. As the enemy came down toward him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, "Strike these people with blindness." So he struck them with blindness, as Elisha had asked. Elisha told them, "This is not the road, and this is not the city. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you are looking for." And he led them to Samaria. After they entered the city, Elisha said, "Lord, open the eyes of these men so they can see." Then the Lord opened their eyes, and they looked, and then they were inside Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he asked Elisha, "Shall I kill them, my father? Shall I kill them?" "Do not kill them," he answered. "Would you kill man you have captured with your own sword or bow? Set food and water before them, so that they may eat and drink and then go back to their master." So he prepared a great feast for them, and after they had finished eating and drinking, he sent them back. And then they returned to their master. So the bands of the Aram stopped raiding Israel's territory. Some time later, Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, mobilized his entire army and marched up and laid siege to Samaria. There was a great famine in the city. The Sieges lasted so long that the donkey's head sold for 80 shekels, boiled liver, and a quarter of a cab of seed post of 5 shekels. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried to him, "Help me, my lord the king." The king replied, "The Lord does not help you. Where can I get to help you? From the threshing floor, from the wine press." So then he asked her, "What's the matter?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give up your son so we may eat him today, and tomorrow we'll eat my son.' So we cooked my son and ate him. The next day I said to her, 'Give up your son so we may eat it.' But she had hidden him. When the king heard the woman's word, he tore his robes as he went along the wall, so the people looked, and there underneath he had sackcloth of his body. He said, 'May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if the head of Elisha son of Shaphat remains on his shoulders today.' Now Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. The king sent a messenger ahead, but before he arrived, Elisha said to his elders, 'Don't you see how this murderer is sending someone to cut off his head? Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door and hold it shut against him.' Is not the sound of his master's footstep behind him. While he was still talking to them, the messenger came down to him, and the king said, 'This disaster is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?'